philosophy continued to grow and evolve even after the classical period, but with the passing of Aristotle, things began to change considerably. Aristotle had been a tutor to Alexander the Great when he was very young, and Alexander the Great had, in return, protected Aristotle and therefore philosophy from attack from without. After Alexander the Great died, then that umbrella of protection was gone, and so philosophical influence was not so concentrated in Aristotle. It became far more diffuse, and what fills in the vacuum there is these two approaches, Stoicism and Epicureanism. And we're going to look at both of these, Stoicism being the more Platonic type of approach, Epicureanism being a little bit more Aristotelian. So let's take a look at these. Now, I've depicted Stoicism with Dr. Spock because, as you recall, hopefully, that Spock, as a Vulcan, was very good at repressing emotion, using just rationality to make his way. And this is very Stoic. They believed that the laws of the cosmos existed, and that when you look out at the world and at the universe, you see design that reflects intelligence, you see balance, you see order, and that order that you see in the cosmos is something you need to understand so that you can get with the program, as it were, and benefit from that and live a more successful life. Well, this logos, or the word, a rational principle behind all not natural phenomena, they believed this logos thoroughly permeated all of the universe, from the farthest reaches of outer space to the tiniest atoms. Getting out of sync with the way the logos works, the way the universe is built and operates, getting out of sync with that is unnatural and causes suffering, pain, and frustration in life. So it's important, therefore, to understand all of this, these aspects of the cosmos, and to try and comport yourself accordingly. Well, key to that, then, is this idea of apatheia, from which we get our word apathy, and we use it to mean devoid of emotion in a negative kind of way. What the Stoics meant was that one needs to control and repress emotion to give more freedom to rational thinking, because suffering comes from surrendering reason to irrational desires. When your desires begin to tell your mind what to do, you're going to have problems, according to the Stoics. The morally perfected person does not suffer from irrational emotions. So they do their best to be, as we would say, very stoic, very emotionless, as they go through life. Well, on the flip side, we've got Epicureanism, which grows out of the philosophical ideas of Epicurus. Now, I've got Richard Simmons here, who is very emotional, very keyed into the needs of the body, and tuned into emotion and how the body is connected to emotion. And this is Epicureanism, and it's based on Epicurus, who says that life is basically good, and that the point, the purpose, as it were, in life is to make sure you enjoy life and that you are happy. So the goal of life is to avoid pain, obtain pleasure, and avoid death. That's simple and straightforward, right? We refer to this as the pleasure principle, or hedonism, which basically says that pleasure, and we're not talking about giggly, ha-ha, yahoo kind of pleasure, but kind of tranquility and flourishing. That's our highest good. And this is what we classically refer to as hedonism in the best sense. Nowadays we refer to a hedonist in a kind of pejorative way. It's a negative thing to be a hedonist. But that's not what we're talking about here. Here it's ethical hedonism, which simply says the way life is, according to Epicurus's philosophy, is that we need to try to seek pleasure in life. That's quite natural. And the bottom line is the way to do that is to try and avoid pain and death. Now, he was a follower of Democritus as an atomic materialist. In other words, he saw everything is determined by physical necessity. So you need to understand how the world works materially and then get with that program, just like the Stoics said. But his approach is you listen to your body. You don't have to look out at how the world works so much. Your body will tell you what's good for you. Nature will tell you. Drinking wine might bring pleasure. If you drink too much of it, it brings pain. So you never want to overdo it in any area because excess brings about pain. You don't want to engage in any activity that might possibly result in pain. You want to avoid anything that has that possibility even, you see. Why would you want to risk any pain when the purpose in life is pleasure? He would say, never want or need anything so much that its absence will cause pain. Avoid anything that might possibly cause pain. A guy named Plotinus resurrects Plato's ideas and puts a new spin on it. So we refer to it as Neoplatonism. And it's a form of idealistic monism. They see all of the world as one, all of the universe as one thing that is controlled by idea. That is basically the most real thing in the universe is idea. So it's idealistic in that sense. Everything emanates from the source of being, the one, the good, right? And that thing is so pure that it is actually in no way connected to our reality. The good is completely removed from everything and is thus pure. The goodness that we have in this world is simply the result of emanations of the good. Like in the same way that the sun has rays that emanate and bring about everything that is alive and flourishing on earth. The same idea, the good for Neoplatonism emanates out and has an impact in our world, but otherwise the good is not connected. Otherwise it would become limited and polluted from any connection to this world. And that was a very popular philosophical approach during this period. Augustine had become a Neoplatonist after soul searching many years. He was very much the party animal, and then became a Neoplatonist after experimenting with many other religions, and finally came back to the religion of his mother, which was Christianity. And of course, he became a saint and made great contributions to Christian theology. But key to that we want to focus on here is the idea of God being eternal, unchanging, and personal. It's one thing to talk about things being eternal and unchanging, like Plato's forms, but here he wants to re-emphasize the God of Scripture, who is also personal and involved with his creation, as opposed to being absolutely separate and distinct from. God creates this world out of the matter that he created ex nihilo, out of nothing. So he doesn't use anything that already existed. It's all has a beginning that is pure and good, and he does it personally for his purposes. This is Augustine. That's where all of that originally comes from. Much later, after the turn of the millennium, within the Catholic Church, we have St. Thomas Aquinas. His thing is the marrying or synthesizing of reason and revelation. Reason, of course, being that which we can understand and deduce. Revelation being that which we would never be able to deduce had it not been revealed to us. So certain truths require revelation. And where do we get revelation? It comes from God through Scripture. It may come through a vision. It may come through a special insight somehow, but it's from God. And without that revelation, you would never have that knowledge. For instance, the knowledge of Aquinas would say of the Trinity. You're never going to find that through reason by looking at the world and finally figuring that out. That requires revelation instead. And so he would say truth may transcend reason, but it will never be contrary to reason. Truth will never be contrary to reason. And if it appears that it is, and it truly is truth, if it appears to be contrary to reason, the disconnect is probably in how we are reasoning. It's our problem, not God's.